All right, arg, mateys. We're here for another episode of the Southbound Sports Show. Matt, I have to kick it off like that. I can't even do it. I was going to do a pirate accent the whole time, and then I thought, crap, I can't even do one. So it would just, it's just going to end up being bad. So for the new scallywags out there, I told Matt last week the Pirates were gonna beat the Cardinals in the series. I think I called it. I don't even remember the exact wording, but I'll say that. And I said, when they do, I'm going to come in with the pirate accent and asked if that would annoy him. He said, yeah. But that's on our docket, so we'll get to that in a second. But I wanted to get that out of the way. I did not forget. I was ready to go. High tempo this week. We really don't have any. Rick's not in. I'm trying something new, and I wanted to apologize off the bat. Matt brought in a mailbag question last week. It's something I've been saying we're going to do for the longest time. And he brings one in, and I completely forget and end the show without getting to the question. And so this week it's back on. So if you're watching the live stream, I have a topic for the mailbag. And I've been trying to get some of the issues with the stream worked out so that we can play audio clips with the stream, but I kept getting an encoding error. So I'm trying some different things, so you might see a little bit different quality this week so that I don't crash the whole thing when we try to do that in the future. So that will be coming. We're definitely going to be improving. Our goal is to take it slow and try to get it in place for football season next year. But my high tempo, I know Matt said he didn't have one from the NFL draft. I had one that I was going to tie into the Steel City update. So if you listen to this regularly, we mainly hit Pittsburgh sports, but we do the whole national landscape. And we've been talking about doing maybe like a Pitt or Penn State topic. So if you're interested in that, let me know. We could also do ACC, Big Ten each week for the Steel City update. But I want to know if people are interested in that. So I'm not going to add that until I hear an overwhelming response. But my thing I had for that today, for my high tempo, so it's all tied together, was James Franklin recruiting class. Right now, 36 for next year. And last year, everything looked great. Top recruiting class, but I talked about it on the show. He relied heavily on a great in-state Pennsylvania recruiting class and some of the neighboring states. This coming year, in-state Pennsylvania doesn't have a deep class. So what is he able to bring to the table? Because right now, and I'm going to tweet this out, I made a graphic that extends. Penn State's 36th. They're right behind West Virginia, who's 35. So when you're looking at that, if you're Penn State, you can't be recruited by West Virginia. I know it's still early. Another notable on here that I highlighted was Nebraska at 41. Scott Frost, I thought he would come in with more of a bang. I know he hasn't been on the job that long, but other new coaching hires have been able to hit that trail and run. When Harbaugh came to Michigan, he was able to get some big names early that first class. Willie Taggart's doing the same thing in Florida State. So you're able to do it, and it's just interesting to see that Nebraska's falling. So that was mine, Matt. Do you have any thoughts on that? Since you don't have a high tempo this week, I did send it along. I don't know if you got a chance to look at it or not.
Well, I did take a look at it, and one of the things that stands out in this early part is that how I think coaches and teams are trying to figure out how do they want to kind of reshuffle their decks, because you have the early signing period now. So I think part of it is how many players and coaches right now are really trying to go all in and nail these kids early and try to get them signed during the early period, as opposed to telling some of them, we'll hold out, wait things out, let's see, maybe try to steal a couple off of somebody else, have them wait until the later signing period where they have more opportunities to take official visits. I'm not the team that I really am most surprised with out of that list was Texas A&M. Seeing how Jimbo Fisher rebounded after kind of quitting recruiting there at the tail end of his tenure at Florida State. Amazing how fast he got them back up and running.
Yeah, I'm looking at it from a whole. I know some of the numbers are kind of messed up. Clemson doesn't have as many recruits as Ohio State or Michigan, yet they're ahead. Even the numbers don't match up with that. So there will definitely be some movement. But A&M, yeah, that shocked me too. Crazy that he would be even ahead of Florida State. And the other one, and I don't know if these are related, but Ole Miss. Ole Miss, they threw out the booster money. They have a lot of kids. Now, they're not as high as what they were getting, but they already have a ton of commits. And it makes me wonder, are they still throwing money around? A&M, they said they're going to pay for a winner. They went out and got Jimbo Fisher. Are they only paying for the coach? Or are they doing the SEC thing and they're going to pay whatever? I mean, the NCAA hasn't stepped in and done anything to stop it. So I wouldn't be surprised if that has something to do with it, if there is some financial backing. Because the way Texas recruited in another one, I cropped it at 10. I did the top 10, and then I highlighted Penn State and Nebraska. But I left West Virginia in there just because they're close to Pittsburgh too. So if you're a West Virginia fan, reach out. I know some of the players on West Virginia team listen to the show because we have some of the Southbound Sports family in West Virginia. So I definitely know that they're aware of it. That's another team we could add in. I know the usual Pittsburgh Root Sports covers West Virginia. So that's another one. Big 12. Let us know. But I left them on there for that reason. And Texas, how does Texas A&M out-recruit Texas this year? Because you had, when Herman came in, they were recruiting like gangbusters last year. He had an okay season. It wasn't a good season. I mean, he lost to Maryland. That's usually the sign of a bad season. But other than that, it's just shocking to me that A&M can just hit the ground running and just blow them out of the door. And all the top 10 teams except for the bottom two, Miami and Ole Miss, they all have at least one 5-star recruit, and there's not that many 5-star recruits in a cycle, so there's a good chance these teams are going to hang around, if they keep their 5 stars, the top 10 until it's all said and done. So, I mean, it's not like A&M's on a fluke where they just have 100 3-star signed or super early. They have some 5-star, some 4-star depth. So, you're right, Matt. Good catch on that. Going to go ahead and cycle into the rest of the Steel City update. Pirates, they swept the Cardinals. Other than my little pirate accent at the start off the show, I really don't have anything to say about it. Matt, you're right. It's still super early. I think what's crazy from a Pirates perspective, as a fan, I'm looking at it, and everything is going the wrong way for the fans. Bob Nunning's coming out like a hero. Not so much. I do know that there's been some controversy. I don't know if you saw this. I'll try to retweet it out. But some people were wearing anti-nutting shirts at the game. And a lot of fans were kind of taking that, like, you really can't do that at this point. You can't be anti-Bob Nutting when they're first in the NL Central, at least as of yesterday when I was prepping for the show. And they're just on a winning streak. They just swept the Cardinals. So it's not like they're only.
Well, they're down 12-2 right now.
Well, Matt, can't win them all, but they can beat the Cardinals every single time this year. 2018.
Every single time. Oh my God, you're so full of yourself. So just like we raised the Jolly Roger, we can go back to lowering it.
I can't even put it at half mast because they're hanging around it. I don't know. I made fun with Rick last week. I'm counting down the wins. They only need 80 something more, and pretty soon they'll be saying, "Oh, they only need 60 more wins." And if they keep winning by the midpoint, you might be saying they only need 30 something more wins to make the playoffs.
But you hit the nail on the head. There's a good chance that they may be playing for some Bucktober. However, they're not going to spend any money. They're not going to go get someone that's going to help put them over the top. You know, there's no way that they go out and invest in a player or two that would put them in the short-term position to win games. Well, so
I agree with that, and that's what I'm looking at it. I was arguing with this guy about the Marlins because that's what I do in my free time, just argue with random people.
Talk about the worst team in baseball.
It was more about Derek Jeter, but you're looking at the Marlins, and they're under the same scrutiny that Pittsburgh is. But when they win 2 World Series, like as a Pirates fan, if you would tell me, the Pirates are going to play this weird money ball, but they're going to win I guess I'm 3 decades old. So they're going to win 2 World Series. Almost every decade they win a World Series. Like I've seen 2 Marlins World Series in my lifetime at ages that I can remember. It's not like they won them. I don't even know when that franchise came into the league, 90s or something. It's not like they won them when I was like 1 year old. So if the Marlins were to win one within the next 10 years, because what am I, 31? 9 years, then they could have an average of 1 a decade. And as a baseball fan, I would say that's a pretty damn good deal. Because there's 30 teams in the league, that means 1 out of every 10 you're winning. So the Marlins, they could keep that process going. Actually, I think I have it reversed. I think they would need to win 2 to keep it up a decade. I'm not too good with math off the top of my head, like this, spitballing on some ideas. But as a Pirates fan, I would say I would take it right now. So let's say they do get hot this year, and it's baseball. Anyone can win. You don't have to have the best roster. You just have to be hot at the right times. If the Pirates made the playoffs and they got smoked in the first round, or even worse, the play-in game, and they lose like they're doing today, 12-2 or whatever, would I be happy? No, that would not be a success. But let's say they're playing in the NL championship game or something, then you might have a point. So fans, I'm just saying, hold back the anger, hold it back. We don't know yet, but it makes us look really dumb when we're wearing shirts calling for the owner when you're in first place. Just wait. If history repeats itself, come August, bring out the shirts. Bring them out right after the trade deadline. You know something stupid is going to happen. It always does. So just wait a little bit. It's still early. I mean, snow just stopped falling up there. So let's relax and let's just take it 1 series at a time and celebrate this Cardinals series win, 3-0 against the Cardinals this year, Matt. Just make sure.
What are your thoughts on Kang coming back?
I don't know. That's the funniest thing. Rick thinks that's going to turn the season around. I'm going to speak for him since he's not here. One guy just not make a team, but I don't know. The big thing right now is the Pirates, for some reason, and I saw it happen during spring training. I think the reason they're winning is because they have this junkyard dog attitude where everyone made fun of them all offseason, and then we saw the players come in spring training. They made some comments like, hey, we're here to win. We're rallying together. And they kind of separated themselves, where in past seasons, you had players that have been around for a long time. They're buddies with the owners or with the managers. But whenever you have a bunch of guys that everyone kind of just kicks all the time and is like, yeah, you guys aren't that good. If you were good, the Pirates would be trading you, which is basically what the fans are telling the current team. Like, you guys are garbage. But if you were any decent, we would have already traded you for value. And I think the players rallied around that. And so now you have a team, and in baseball, team chemistry can go a long way. Now, if Kang, I don't know, like, he's just not going to make an impact at his position. So overall, as long as he doesn't disrupt the locker room, I say bring him on. You can't hurt. But I don't think it's going to put them over the top one way or the other. I'm still not thinking they finish, or I'm still thinking they don't finish above third in the division. So, with or without him, doesn't matter.
Well, I think that's fair. The other thing that when I heard he was back, that I kind of thought about was, what does that do for a team that kind of has average players? So you have like a whole roster full of average people, and now you come down the stretch and you're trying to push for a playoff spot. You really have to be on your game as far as the averages and knowing who to play when and where. And in the past, it just seems like the Pirates just don't have that necessarily. Like they need 1 or 2 players to really put them over the top, and it seems like, well, we're just going to play with the hand we're dealt with. But if you have a crappy hand to start with, then it doesn't help you. They can't go to the well and draw anything out because they have an average team.
Well, that's where you might have a guy and you can rely on him. And I think back to, and you can use the Marlins again, when they had Cabrera the 1 year, whenever they won the World Series, I think that was the second one. He came up, and you knew he was going to get something started. And the other player, a lot of people overlook for the Red Sox, when they made their turnaround, Manny Ramirez came up with a ton of huge hits. Now, they had other guys around him, but when the Red Sox were down, he made some big hits, and then later in the series, other guys stepped up, like Johnny Damon had a home run the one time. But I remember, like, for a while, Manny Ramirez, he rallied the locker room. So if King is going to take that position where, hey, I'm the guy, if you guys don't want to get a hit, I'm going to get a hit, and then you guys need to hit me in, that might get the guys pumped up and ready to go. Is he going to be that type of talent? Do you have to be making millions of dollars? No, because the Marlins kind of had that. I think the first year they had Edgar Renteria kind of in the same role, and some of the other guys, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I know they relied on pitching the first one with Livan Hernandez. So, but the second one, it took Cabrera, and now Cabrera turned into a beast. So, I mean, one of the best players of all time. So you're kind of relying on that. But, I mean, all you have to do is just have some type of motivation for your team and try to get these average guys to just play consistently. If you play consistent and then you ride one star to get that big hit when you need it, you can go a long way. I mean, teams do it all the time, so.
Absolutely. There was one other thing I wanted to get your opinion on. As far as the Pirates pitching, what are your thoughts on them pulling their starters at tweener points of the game? Because from what I've seen, their starting pitchers have been in some no-hitter type games. They've been in, where they've started off hot, and then they get pulled. What are your thoughts on that? Now,
this is something that I'm not gonna agree with the Major League Baseball guys 100% on this, and that's why we can go back to a couple weeks. I'm still 100% behind extending the season. Not games-wise, but stretching it out months over months. Because now you're worried about your star pitchers getting hurt. And I think the Pirates has hurts them more because they're way too cautious with their guys. I'm the type of guy, and I was a pitcher, I pitched in college, where if I'm winning, no hitter, one hitter, whatever, you weren't going to take me out of the game. Like there would be a fight. I would be yelling with the manager on the dugout side fighting because I didn't want to come out of the game or whatever. Now, I guess in the majors you're getting paid, so you're not going to do that. That's different. So, different scenario, but I know that they're doing that so they don't get hurt. You're kind of saying, all right, you're pitching great. We don't care what the outcome of this game is. You're not managing to win the game. Because if you were winning the game, I mean, I've seen teams do it. You have a guy that's hot, no hitter. Keep him in until he gives up a hit. Or whatever. Wait till they get a guy in scoring position, then take him out. Now, another reason they might not be confident with the bullpen. Because if you have a decent bullpen and you get a guy in scoring position, you know the bullpen's going to come in and shut that guy down and pick up the starting pitcher. So they kind of, by preventing any guys from being on base, and if you make a clean swap, then you really don't have to do it. But I don't think the Pirates' bullpen is deep enough to ride that because I've seen success both ways. I know I'm kind of going around in a circle here. But what I like to do is if the starting pitcher can get you 6, you have a long reliever maybe get you 1 or 2. If you need them, a setup man and then a closer. So you can really do, that's 4 guys. Now, if that's going to be your strategy year long, then you're going to see guys with the short leash. They're going to get pulled to get the bullpen in a rhythm. I don't like it. I like to see the starting pitcher go all the way, but you kind of need a bullpen that has 3 or 4 shutdown guys that you know, hey, my starting pitcher gets me 7. I got a guy that can shut down the 8th and 9th. Basically 2 closers. And some teams have that. Pirates do not. Pirates might have back in the day. Jose Mesa. I forget. Those are some old years. But these days they do not have that. That's why you see teams like, who was it? Was it the Indians or Yankees? Someone, I think it was the Yankees the year they traded for, was it Andrew Miller? And they had Chapman? You trade for one closer and you already have a closer because you know your starting pitchers are able to go 6 or 7. So that every game in the playoffs, you have 2 guys that their whole job is you pitch 1 inning. You're not focused on, okay, we might need you to come in early in the 8th because we have this other closer guy right here we might need. And then if you have to close 2 or 3 games in a row because the starting pitcher can get us to 8 innings, then we have another guy that can back up and give you some rest. That's why I'm surprised a lot more teams don't go for that 2 closer rule. I don't know. I think that's the best route to go. The Andrew Miller, Chapman, I can't remember off the top of my head. That was just like 2 years ago they made that trade. So that's my thoughts. It depends on the bullpen. Pirates don't have the bullpen, so they really kind of just have to pick. They're never going to let their starters go deep because if a starter becomes reliable, to be honest, they can use them as trade bait. Young starting pitchers are something you can trade for key pieces. Key pieces in Pirates terms means cheaper revenue or cheaper roster salary cap. I guess not really salary cap, but cheaper pay, and you can get more in return. More young, cheap guys. So that's my thoughts on that. Anything else before we kick this over here?
Nope.
All right, so Penguins battle the Capitals is my next one. I was trying something new, and I don't know if it's working, so I apologize. So what I tried to do was, since Rick's out, I tried to put the game score, live score, straight up in the upper right image, and it looks like it froze. Now, I'm trying to refresh it here. It looks like Penguins do have a lead now, 3-2. It's the end of the second. I'll let you talk first, Matt. I feel like I'm talking a lot this show. What are your thoughts on this series? Have you watched it?
Yes, I have. And first off, the non-goal call in Game 1 is absolutely atrocious.
That's why I let you start this, because
it almost goes back to that whole conversation that we've had, like with using replay, and we live in like in an age and a time where like you can see like the individual fibers on a piece of glass or a piece of grass on your high definition TV, but yet we're rolling out these like Commodore 64 computers and like the worst possible technology for these instant replays and things like, let's go. Like, this is the playoffs. Millions of dollars are at stake here in gambling and everything else. Get it right. That's all we're saying is get the calls right. For crying out loud.
I know it's going to make me mad, and I was thinking about it during the game when I saw the replay. I mean, they had a view. It wasn't the clearest view, but you could definitely see that there was ice between it. And to me, I mean, like, I don't want to say it, like, are you blind? Because how do you not see that? And if you are, how are you officiating this game? And my idea for football was to do, okay, we know the football field doesn't move. You can have cameras at each yard line or the end zone or whatever and try to get that vertical line. Hockey is so much easier. You only have to monitor, what is a net? A couple feet wide? That line. You can have a view straight down from the ceiling, the rafters. That net doesn't move. They don't move it at all during the game. And if they do, they blow the whistle and they reset it. There's no reason teams should not have a top-down view. And I understand. Okay, see how
they did, but that was where part of the issue is that the goalie backs up and that is squatting over the puck and you can't see it. The better angle is to have it down at the bottom, right in the middle, so that you have both sides, and you should, in theory, be able to see it from that side. I mean, I guess if the goal is pushing back against it, you're still going to run into those issues. But the issue is still the same. There was a clear, given the camera or the pixels of what's happening, like you could see that the puck was there. I don't understand why it's so difficult.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I was getting to, and I was probably taking a super long way, but I was thinking of prism. Because you know how they shine the light through the prism and then it shows you like that trajectory where everything meets at that one point. You can have cameras around the glass. Cameras these days are so small, it doesn't even matter. You wouldn't even be able to see it. My cell phone has a camera. But you can't tell me that they can't have that along the glass. The glass is protected. That you can even have it cabled in. No one would even see it. You have 300 advertisers around that stupid thing. You can't tell me you can't cut out a little piece and put some plexiglass over a camera that's kind of watching the angles. I mean, they kind of had it, but I wondered if that was like a guy in the stands, like shooting that angle down, then it just happened to catch it. But you're right. If you have that, I hate to say it, but because refs, I don't want to say it's hard to do, because I've done it before, and not at a high level, high school. I don't think I did college, but I mean, as long as you know the rules and you kind of know what you're looking for, but you need a guy that doesn't have an ego. And all these guys, they have egos. And you hear it all the time in Major League Baseball. Well, you don't want to take away the umps calling balls and strikes because why? You don't want to hurt the man's ego because he sucks at it? If you have a strike zone that the camera can tell you if it was a strike or not automatically, why have that man? Why have him at all? I mean, I think back to our wiffle ball days where we had the stupid thing and you would try to hit it. If it hits inside that little square thing, it's a strike. I don't care. Very easy to do your own umpiring, and hockey's the same way. You just have one guy in the booth that his job is to make the call. And you can't tell me that the guys skating over there on the game aren't feeling the crowd, because there's no other way they make that call. Unless, it's not even a conspiracy at this point, unless someone from NBC said, hey, keep the call on the ice. That's the only other way they don't reverse that. Because there's nothing more blatant than that screen cap.
And I mean, at that point, it was a 2-goal game. There's nothing to say that you give Pittsburgh that goal. That's not to say that they tie it up or that they end up winning game 1. So I guess for as angry as I am about the non-call, it's almost a moot point, because they take care of business and don't let themselves get down as many goals as they did in the early part of that game, then we're not even having this discussion. But here you go. We're back playing another physical team, and it looks like, once again, for the Penguins to pull this off, they got to go the hard road. So they got to go up against the toughest teams in our division, and then if you get through this side of the conference, then you breeze once you hit the cup.
Now, I did have those stats. Let me see. Because, of course, I did some I do have the research right here. I actually have it ready. So, the past 2 years, Penguins have played a similar path to what they have right now. It's actually the exact same. So, if you're looking at it just from a stats view, they played a 3 seed in the first round every year, all 3 years. Then they played the number 1 seed, which happens to be the Capitals, all 3 years. So if they win this one, the 2 years ago, 16, they then played a 2 and then a 3. And then in 2017, they played a 2 and then a wild card. Right now, they're going to play at least a 2 next round, Boston, or the number 1, Toronto. So as long as their finals matchup would end up being, and this is if they go all the ways, above a 3, this will be the hardest road they've played. And I think the only 3 is San Jose a 3. So Winnipeg and San Jose are both 3s. I think they're going to play a 3 or a 1. So it will at least match their hardest path. Or all it takes is 1. If Toronto wins and Penguins face Toronto next round, this will be their hardest path to the Stanley Cup Finals, no matter what happens in the West. So
Tampa Bay,
that's what I'm thinking. I said Toronto, didn't I? That's another one of those Canadian teams that, Matt, they're supposed to know hockey, but they just never show it.
Tampa Bay down in Florida, it's easy to get confused with up in Canada.
I know.
You sound like my 6th graders.
Well, no, I think Toronto hockey, that has to be who's the number 1 seed, not Tampa Bay. That's where I made my mistake. Why would they know hockey in Tampa? They didn't even have a mascot that was related to hockey, so they made it Lightning. They're like, what can we kind of tie in here? In football, they're the Buccaneers. That's not very ice related. It's not like they're sailing through the glaciers. Could have did the Titanic. That would have been funny, but probably not in an appropriate way. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this. I didn't want to get too deep. I know I could sit here and complain about officiating the whole time, but Penguins, here's my keys. My quick keys. Quit giving up the first goal. What the hell? They did it all 3 games. You give up the first goal. Well, at least this game, they waited till the second period to give up that first one. But the first 2 games, it was like you gave up a goal within the first 2 minutes. Give me a break. Come on, you can't let them set the tone. I know they were at home. And then the first game, when they had their, they scored 2 or 3 within like 2 minutes there in the third period to win the game. Like, that was crazy, and that should have sucked the life out of the Capitals. But what happens in game 2? You let them get a goal right away, and then they settle back in. If the Penguins hold just till, like, I don't know, and even if the Capitals get the first goal, but if you hold even the whole first period, there's no way the Capitals are feeling good about the series as a whole. But now you're letting them set the tempo every game. That's what's scary. And I don't know. Got to get some guys healthy. Too many guys are out right now for Penguins. Malkin, he hasn't been playing a good bit. He traveled to Capitals. Is he playing the night? I know he didn't play game 1. Who else is out? I'm drawing a blank. He went to Michigan. Hagelin, he's out, and I don't know if he's coming back. And then there was a huge elbow shot to the head. That's my other thing. When you have replay, and this is the same thing for football, because I hate it. I hate the helmet to helmet. When you blatantly have your head down and you do a helmet to helmet. Same thing here. I don't care. I heard the explanation about the guy slowing down and you hit his elbow. Don't go high. You actually know what would hurt more is if you get up under the guy's ribs. So why is your elbow up that high anyway? The shoulder's like the best place to get hit. Why do you think boxers stand like this? So to get the shots in their shoulders instead of their face or in the head. Like, why would he be going high? There's no other way. You go high. If you know sports at all or fighting, you don't go to the shoulder. So his explanation makes no sense. You're going to go low and try to get him in the ribs, where it hurts. Think of Rocky. Chop him down, Rock. Chop him. He doesn't say hit him in the shoulders. Hit him in the shoulders a few times. The other part of that
Go ahead. Is playing the Capitals. You know they're a physical team. You can't. The Penguins have to be. They have to show a little bit of savvy here and not get sucked into the stupid penalties. There's so many times that they let the Capitals get under their skin. They just tied it up 3-3.
Oh, damn.
But they put themselves in these positions where whether it's cheap, whether it's not, the Capitals take shots at the Penguins and then they get mad and retaliate. They go to the box and then they score a goal. So it's like they capitalize on the stupidity of Pittsburgh, and they have to just play their own game and not let these other. You're the cup champs. Let them come to you. When you start chasing these other teams, that's where they get themselves. That's what bounced them out against Philly a couple years ago. They tried to take on this physical persona, and that's not the way that they win their games. They win it with their speed. They win it with the way that they put the puck in the back of the net, and that's the way they got to play it.
Yeah, I agree. That was the one thing that was frustrating at the end of the second game. They took like 2 penalties that were done within the last 10 minutes. Like, you guys are supposed to be pulling the goalie here. It's a lot tougher to do that whenever you're down a man. So, Dom, you're right. Don't give into it. That I agree with that. You have anything else to add?
Nope.
Right.
Oh, other than with the Nashville game and then dumping beers down the Catfish.
Well, let's just say, Matt, what are your thoughts on that? That was Michigan man Taylor Lewan.
Of course it was. Of course it was. Why would it be someone with a full functioning brain? Just how they pick out the guys with 2 that are still functioning.
Is he the starting left tackle?
And they could even pick. Yes, he's a left tackle, but he could even pick a classy beer to pick Bud Light. You're making millions of dollars. Get something a little bit better.
Hey, those beers are expensive. Those are $10 beers there, Matt. What did you want them to pay? 20?
Get something classy.
I do got to say, I do like how at the end he still crushes beer like Solo. So I'll find that and I'll send it out. I don't know if I did yet. I might have. But we'll definitely put that out if you didn't see it. It's funny. And I'll be honest, the other series, I can give an overview on them. The the Vegas came out to play the first game, then they end up losing. Are they both 1-1, those other series in the West? Yeah, they are.
I think.
So Winnipeg came out. They looked like they were going to stay the hottest team. But the second game against Nashville, and I'll be honest, I think Nashville might be my most hated team. And it's because of the country singer Klingons. It's like, if you were, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's kind of like you just see a bunch of popular people just pretending to like hockey, and they're going to like Nashville for some reason. So for that reason, I think I'm going to just cheer against them every year. I hated it last year in the finals, playing them. It was nice to kick their ass. So this year, I just want them out. Because now it's kind of like a, hey, let me grab my 5 minutes of fame here. Hey, I'm a country singer. I'm at the game. Here, we're going to do a photo shoot with outside the hockey arena. And then like their Nashville account retweets every goddamn thing. So then I'm sitting there trying to do research for the show. And what do I see? Just a bunch of clingers, whatever you want to call them. Just people trying to ride the coattails. And you know they have no idea what's going on in the game. So, Matt, I do like that there are some big, manly men there drinking beers out of fish, because that at least grounds them a little bit from the other douchebaggery they usually promote there in Nashville.
I got nothing. It's awful.
Well, with that, we'll go into the NFL draft. NFL draft, it was crazy this year. So they put it on Fox, and I actually didn't even look up the ratings. I'll look and see what the ratings were. It's been exploding every year, and maybe one year we'll go. Southbound Sports will go. We'll cover it. I know we sent Jeff went last year.
Yep.
To it in Philly. So depending on where it is, the Cowboys thing, Goodell, he doesn't want to get booed, so he walks out with a couple Cowboy legends. I'm so glad the crowd still booed him. Like, what was he thinking? It's not even 100% Cowboys crowd. They have segments of the crowd for each fan base. I think they even sell it through the team's website. So, like, if I wanted to go as a Steelers rep, I can contact the ticket office and be like, hey, you guys are selling draft tickets. I'm a Steelers fan. I want to go sit in the Steelers section. Because if you watched, they had sections for each team. So 29 other teams are going to be booing those Cowboy players. So it just didn't make any sense that that's what they put out before the game. I hope that wasn't his intention, because that backfired. I could have told him that was going to backfire 5 minutes into the idea. But other than that, draft, quarterbacks, dude, Baker Mayfield goes number one. I love Baker Mayfield, but I'm sorry that he went to the Browns. His career is probably over. Until the Browns produce a quarterback that's career's not done within the first 3 years, then I'll be, a little happy for him. But at this point, the Browns, they had a chance. They could have got, Chubb. They didn't. And it just was like, what are you doing? You're making the worst picks of all time, and everyone's laughing at them. So you can just pencil in 2 wins for the Steelers this year. I don't think they're going to turn it around. So that's good news. My bad news, Baltimore Ravens, they went ahead and they made the bold picks. They got Lamar Jackson and early.
Hayden Hurst.
Yeah. They got some other picks that just, I don't even know what to say other than a tale of two division rivals. Browns blowing it. Ravens, they're trying to become that legitimate threat. Luckily, I'll get on the Steelers here. I really don't have much on the Bengals either, just because they're a mess as a whole too. But Steelers number 1 pick, you get Terrell Edmonds, safety, Virginia Tech. Wasn't a bad pick. I think I gave him a B minus or whatever. I think I did send that out during the game. Maybe a B. No, I gave him a B plus or an A minus. I forget what it was. It was high. It was above average because they addressed a need. Was it the guy I wanted? No. I think they should have. I still think they should have went cornerback and went with the taller guy from Auburn, or the fast guy. I know Jair Alexander, which was who they were supposed to be in on, went earlier, but LSU still had a fast cornerback that can play those coverages. And so they got him. Wasn't too bad. So I'm thinking, okay, good draft. Next pick, they get James Washington out of Oklahoma State. I'm thinking, I think I texted you guys. I said, I think they're going to get Rudolph because you're going to get it and they're going to pull a move here where if Rudolph's there, they're going to get him. And they didn't even wait. They traded up for him. And they took Mason Rudolph and James Washington. And I thought that's a great pairing. And I'm surprised other teams don't do that more often. When you have a quarterback that's projected to be a little bit of a project and he has a good receiver, a great receiver on his team, a high second round pick, and you get his receiver, why not then take that project instead of just another random project quarterback? I'm waiting to see how this pans out because I think this is a great move for them. I heard some people saying Josh Dobbs is out of a job. Why not Landry Jones? Landry Jones has been garbage. I'd rather have Dobbs and Rudolph battling it out than Landry Jones. Oh my God. I saw that. I immediately became triggered. I was like, I felt my heart just popping. Like, no, why would you get rid of Dobbs and keep Landry Jones? Because they were like safe. Or it was like, I forget even where the site it was because I just get everything popping up in my Twitter feed. It's like, who feels good after the Steelers draft? And the first one was Landry Jones. His job is considered safe now. And I just felt my heart going. I was like, no, I'm reading this wrong. Well, why isn't he going? He should be the first one gone. They did trade Martavis Bryant, which we knew. I chatted with some fans during the game on Twitter, so follow us, Bound Sports, on Twitter since I'm talking about it. I was chatting with some guys. Some fans didn't like it, but you got to know it was going to happen. Especially, they traded him right before they picked Washington, so I knew they were going to pick a receiver. I honestly didn't think they would take Washington. And then as soon as they got him, it all made sense. So the first 3 rounds went according to plan. After that, I started scratching my head. I guess Chuck Okafor, tackle, Western Michigan. Actually not a bad pick. I didn't mind this one as much as some other people did. Because tackles, they're hard to find in the NFL. So if you think you can find one with a 3rd round pick compared to wasting a 1st round pick down the line, great, get them. I mean, you already had 2 3rd round picks. You got your quarterback of the future. Why not bring in a tackle with him to help protect him and run scout team together? Why not? Because now you're having a little bond on this rookie squad where you have a wide receiver, a quarterback, and now his protector at tackle. So I didn't mind the moves. You're obviously building for a future here, so go for it. I would rather them take a tackle now than just grab him later in another draft, waste a 1st round pick when there might be a stud defensive tackle or something instead. I like defenders in the 1st round better. Matt, you want to interject on the first 3 rounds before I get into it? Because Steelers had a break there on the 4th. I don't want to talk the whole time.
Well, thanks. When looking at the Edmonds pick, I kind of felt disappointed, to be honest. I mean, to go from Virginia Tech, and I'm a fan of Bud Foster's defense. I think he's done a lot of innovative things with taking some undersized or maybe undervalued recruits and really making it work with that system at Virginia Tech. So if Pittsburgh's going to use more sub packages, so if they're going to use nickel, they're going to use dime, and they're going to use players that are kind of in more of a hybrid type role, and he fits that role, then I can kind of live with it a little bit more. When I look at Pittsburgh as a whole, they're not a franchise that has a pile of, holes or things that they need to address. One time I would like to see them, and this isn't their style, it's not their game, but one time we need a safety, jump up there and take a Fitzpatrick or a Derwin James, or take someone that, they're not going to be there when you pick later in the 1st round. Why not jump up and take that safety that you've been missing since Polamalu retired?
Well, that was what the rumors were. They ran a lot of articles about how the Steelers moved up and grabbed a safety when they grabbed Polamalu, and how it's been however many years since they've done that. So people thought they were going to do that, but they didn't. So go ahead.
Right. When they picked – I was actually happy they ended up not picking Geis after he was drafted right before they picked. I thought, I would have liked Pittsburgh to pick him, being that they needed – I think adding running back depth was something that I would have liked to have seen them happen. But then seeing that he was like almost getting into fights with his interview with the Eagles, and other teams were reporting that he was lazy and like was just wanting to play video games more than, being serious about that. We need another locker room cancer in that Pittsburgh locker room, like we need polio. So I'm glad that he didn't fall to them. I'm glad that they didn't take him. I was surprised by the wide receiver move. I felt like even with Bryant being gone, because he smokes pot so much that he's been missing games and like he was being benched and all this other stuff, that like he really wasn't around contributing consistently enough, that I thought, well, kind of a surprise with the Washington pick. I thought that the Rudolph pick should have been made there, but it was all sins forgiven once they were able to move back up and take him. I was seeing some things today that they were talking about Roethlisberger's reaction to it, and he said, well, if that's who they think they want for their future, that's good, but not if I have anything to say about it. And like kind of implying that he's going to be playing another 8 to 10 years. I think that's a great mindset as a competitor. Yeah. Realistically, though, I just don't think that's workable, because I think injuries are going to leave him banged up, and I don't feel comfortable with Landry Jones, so you better start shopping it around. I know there were some people that were going with the mindset, you have a quarterback, address all the other pieces, and then wait to bring up quarterback until after Ben retires. That's like saying, don't wait to fix your car until it absolutely completely breaks down.
Well, like, I think I saw Ben Roethlisberger. He hasn't played a full season since like 2013 or 2012 or something. So it's been years. You got to have someone ready to go. And to be honest, I was disappointed with him too, because I would like to see, how does Tom Brady, a guy that everyone hates, realistically, everyone hates that guy, how does he have all these backup quarterbacks that work with him and love him and learn, and they come into the league and they know how to act like a starting quarterback? That's what Roethlisberger needs to kind of do, because Tom Brady's extending his legacy. Because look at all these other guys that he's coached up, kind of, that have learned from him, that have gone to other teams. Garoppolo's the latest, but you had a bunch of other quarterbacks that were his supposed replacements that he made starters in the NFL. So Roethlisberger has done that 0 times. I mean, who was his best backup? We were arguing last offseason. What was it? Charlie Batch? And like that wasn't even a product of Roethlisberger. He was in the league way before him.
Either him or Byron Leftwich.
Yeah, Leftwich also. Was he in their league before Roethlisberger? I want to say he was, but
yes,
it was around the same time, I think, or somewhere close. But yeah, realistically, you have a tale of two teams here, Roethlisberger. You don't even play all your games. Tom Brady plays more games than you, and he has better backups. So why don't you step up and help this guy learn? I talked about it last week. ESPN has him as the best comparison to Ben Roethlisberger, the style he plays. So this is a great learning situation for him. This is probably the best place for him to land. So, any other thoughts on those first couple?
At first, my first reaction when I saw the Cleveland picks was Cleveland doing Cleveland things. But then when you step back and you see and you evaluate a little bit of what they're getting, and the one pick that they made, or they didn't officially make, was looking at offensive coordinator Todd Haley, the man that is hated in Pittsburgh, goes to Cleveland. And with Baker Mayfield, he's kind of like a mini Roethlisberger when you think about it. The scrambling around, the shenanigans, it's kind of a similar, like they call it his competitiveness, but it's that freelancing that we've as Steeler fans, you just learn to adjust with Roethlisberger. You see Ben like drop back, scramble around. I mean, obviously he's not doing as much now because as soon as he takes 3 steps, he gets sacked. But like earlier in his career, like guys would be bouncing off of him. He'd just run around and throw it 70 yards. Now, I don't think Mayfield's going to do that. But with Haley's system of endless quick screens, Mayfield can do that. And he showed it time and time again at Oklahoma that with being in that system of quick throws and timing and using his legs to buy himself a little bit of time, he might be able to do that. I didn't like the cornerback position being addressed with the 4 pick because I still thought Chubb was a better prospect. But they made up for not drafting Barkley by picking up Nick Chubb in the 2nd round. So they still I think it was 2nd or even 3rd round.
Yeah,
they added
I
Chubb.
think that was a good pick. If you're trying to build around something, that's something they had going for them. You're right.
And I think Chubb was a legitimate running back at Georgia who ended up splitting time. So they weren't a lot of wear and tear on his body. He did have the knee injury earlier on in his career, but with splitting time with some of the mileage on him that maybe Barkley's had over the last couple of years. So coming in, his legs, so to speak, are a little bit less. And he's going into a situation where he's going to be able to maybe not necessarily have to be the starter because they still have Duke Johnson taking over primary rushing responsibilities with Crowell being gone.
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit, but yeah, I think Nick Chubb, he was looked at as
so I do think
possibly
that's
the number 1 running back. You were cutting out there, so I jumped in. We'll see.
Absolutely.
We'll see if it gets any better here. Looking at the bottom half of the picks, dude, I'll skip over the Marcus Allen pick because for right now, Jalen Samuels from NC State, I've seen him play down here, being in Raleigh, and I think that's a great pick. A lot of people don't know he was kind of like their Le'Veon Bell, out of the backfield, catching passes, moving up the field, kind of doing it all, running routes, taking handoffs, and he was a guy that was able to move the ball. And NC State had a great draft. Kind of made me wonder why they didn't have more wins or anything, the way they had so much NFL talent that teams took high picks on. So I'm looking at Samuels. I'm thinking that's something the Steelers need. If Washington doesn't pan out and they're really only drafting him, second might be kind of high to just try to get a quarterback comfortable in the league. Washington is kind of smaller than I would have liked them to get a Plaxico Burress type where they have a bigger deep threat instead of getting a smaller vertical threat. But whatever, at this point, they've been playing with short wide receivers for how many years now? That one year was like Hines Ward, Antoine Randall, and whoever else they had after Plaxico left. That was like the shortest 3 receivers out there running around, so really can't hurt it that much to have all short guys. So Washington, we'll see how he pans out, but I think a sleeper pick will be Jalen Samuels because he can do it all. He can catch passes, he can run routes. Some sites had him as a fullback. Some sites had him as a running back. Some sites had him as a tight end, and I think that's why he fell so far. He didn't have that one position that he played. And Steelers can kind of play him anywhere. Get him the bulk up, play that power fullback role, or get him out. Even a fullback that can catch the ball, those are so rare that he would be an extra safety valve to run like a fake screen to Bell and flip it back to Samuels. Crazy, because he's fast too. So that's another one. And then Joshua Frazier, the 7th round pick from Alabama. Can you really go wrong? If you're going to draft in the 7th round, why not take a pick on an Alabama guy that's fallen? Because maybe the guys in front of him are just so good or advanced so fast just because of age that's why he didn't get much playing time or whatever. So I didn't mind that pick. I mean, can you really go wrong with an Alabama guy? Like I said, not really. Sometimes school goes and they draft kids from like Division II or whatever in the later rounds, but I'll go back to the Marcus Allen pick. So they doubled up on safeties. I was immediately mad because Marcus Allen, and I know it's a 5th round pick, so people can say, well, it's a 5th round pick. He's a Pennsylvania guy because he went to Penn State. Who cares? He's slow. His weakness is read like who you wouldn't draft. If I gave you a blind list of weaknesses, Matt, it was almost everything you would look for in a defensive back. It was like hips, not fluid with the hips, bites on fake moves. It was like doesn't have speed to run down receivers. Not strong enough to tackle tight ends. It was like, oh my God, is there any strength for this guy? And then it was like, he talks like a captain or whatever. I was like, what is this? He had no
He
strengths.
talks like a pirate.
Like a team captain, or what was that one that I sent you guys? It was something like that. It was like saying he was a team player, and I couldn't get over it because you already drafted a safety. So you draft a safety, and then you go ahead and get a safety that's even slower. And to me, to be honest, he didn't even run a 40 at the combine. Penn State said that he ran a 4.59, but I don't think that was an official time. So you know what that means? When teams say they run that, I think the comparison, I tried to look up some stats for the show, but I didn't bring it in. Totally. But like Michigan would say, Jabril Peppers, he runs a 4.3. And then, of course, he goes to the NFL Combine, and he runs a 4.4. So you can really just take an extra tenth on. So Penn State says he runs a 4.59. You better believe he's running a 4.69 at the best. At best. So when you don't run at the Combine because you're afraid people will think you're slow, you're slow. I'll just say it. So what kind of pick is this? And people were thinking he's going to get in and start. His draft grade was could potentially play in the NFL. Could potentially play in the NFL with a 5th round pick. This is when you take guys that are crazy athletic, that didn't have positions like you did with Jalen Samuels. Guys that you can kind of fit in. And I think they could have did that. They could have found a freak. I had always said they should have got Shaquem Griffin, and he went to the Seahawks with his brother, which I think was an awesome draft move by them, because he was a fast hybrid linebacker. Now, even in terms of linebackers, 4.6 is slow. Like if you want to get a fast linebacker like Shazier was 4.4 or 4.3, whatever he was running. So he can't even fill the Shazier void if they take him from safety and move him to linebacker, which is what I think they might have been trying to do here, Matt, with Marcus Allen and Edmonds. They took 2 guys that were locker room heroes, according to their scouting report, and guys that are just going to fit in and do their role and play, I guess, only nickel and dime situations. I don't know if these guys, either of them are going to be every down players. They just don't have the measurables, if we're being honest. So I'd like to get your thoughts on it.
Well, I think that as an organization, Pittsburgh's done an excellent job of kind of going through these late round picks and finding late round treasure. You know, the players like undrafted James Harrison, like late round Antonio Brown. They seem to find these players every year and make them work. Is it a matter of them tailoring the scheme to the player, or just finding those diamonds in the rough? I don't know. But the scouting department does an excellent job of filling those voids. And at the time, you know, it's easy for us to sit here when we're not the ones responsible for those picks. But if in the end, even though you're scratching your head, if you walk away with a legitimate starter at some point that is a step up over what we did have with, you know, looking at the safety position and with Mike Mitchell just running around with his head down, does it really matter? You know, with either safety, they can't do worse than what we already had last year. Just letting Blake Bortles pick us apart in the playoffs. Like if Blake Bortles is picking you apart, then you need to reevaluate your life.
I think that's why they went with the less talented, supposedly smarter guys. Oh, great. Capitals just scored with a minute left in the game. So,
that's nice.
That's a bit of a bummer for people that are watching and listening to both. Definitely going to get my rage boiling. What a way to end the show. But, yeah, I don't know. If you get these guys, what I would have liked to see is then with the first pick, take the cornerback. If you had Marcus Allen on your board and you thought you could get him in the later rounds and he could be a serviceable safety, then get the cornerback. Get one of those other guys that have the measurables and the speed and the size. Don't get guys that play the same position. I see the Steelers cut. Who did they cut today? Wilcox? One of the other safeties. So they cut a guy. We knew what they're doing. They're just trying to get more bodies at the safety position. And to me, that's what the disappointing thing with the draft is. I would give it a C grade because possibly got the quarterback of the future. That bumps it up, but you didn't help any of your needs. You needed linebackers, and you needed help in coverage, and you got 2 safeties. Safeties aren't really good in coverage. You didn't get a disruptive safety like Paul Amalu, like Matt said. Go up and get Jalen Ramsey or someone. Like, I don't understand. Get a guy that's going to be a stud if you're going safety. Don't get 2 mediocre safeties and expect them to help your Blake Bortles problem, because it's not going to happen. That's all I have. Matt, anything for this before we move on?
No, go ahead.
All right, NBA playoffs. I'm just going to hit on it real quick because we're going long. Celtics, dude, beat the Sixers last night. I don't know how the Celtics are still winning games with their 2 stars out. I thought for sure when they went to Game 7 against the Bucks, I watched the game. I thought, well, they can't stop. They couldn't stop the guy. I can't even say his name. I think everyone calls him the Greek Freak. I don't follow Milwaukee too much, but they couldn't stop him. So I thought Game 7, it's going to be over. He's just going to take over the game, and they're going to lose. And makes sense. Good building year. You can't have 2 stars hurt and expect to go deep in the NBA playoffs, but they win. And then they go against Sixers and they win. Any thoughts on that?
Well, if they continue to knock down the shots like they were last night, Boston's going to take this series. But I would be surprised if they can continue to shoot the ball the way that they did, because anytime the Sixers would mount any kind of comeback, Boston was just draining threes all over the place. That was just putting them – just push the lead away. So if they can continue to do that, they'll easily win the series out. But I just don't think that they have that. One of the things that makes the series easy, I saw the stat, the teams that had the most like passes during their games, the average on the year, Sixers were 1, Celtics were 2, and Golden State was 3. So you look at 3 teams that are being competitive. They're not playing selfish ball.
Yeah.
I definitely think one of the things that's hurting the Sixers right now is their youth, because you could see that they had a lot of really bad turnovers and just that inexperience of not really playing multiple seasons together is kind of hurting them. What's his name? Al Horford or whatever.
Horford, yeah, he's been in the league forever.
He's been in there forever, and it shows. It looked like a 47-year-old man playing with junior high kids. He was just dunking on everyone. He just balled out.
Yeah, and I think that's what you need. You need that one veteran guy. And when they signed Horford, everyone was kind of like, "What? That's not a key move." He was kind of written off. Everyone else always thought like, "Well, people don't even go ahead and name him when they talk about great Celtics on the team right now." So that just shows you how getting that one savvy vet is something that the Sixers are missing. Who do they have? Redick? Is that who their savvy vet is?
Yes, and it cracks me up because during the broadcast they were like, Redick, a one-and-done player from Duke. He played and started for 4 years. he's the anti-one-and-done. The only reason he played 4 years is because he couldn't play 5.
I know he would have stayed there forever. Oh, man. But, yeah, it'll be good. Next week we'll get a little bit more thoughts on some of these series now that the NFL draft's over. We'll be hitting up the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs as they start to wind down. It is a final 4-3 Capitals win, so they have a 2-1 advantage in the series now. Disappointing end, and I don't even know, because at this point, now you have to play against the refs and the other team, and it's going to be physical, and I don't want to see it go 7, and I have a feeling it's going to go Game 7. And you just can't go Game 7, Game 7, Game 7, Game 7 after your third trip. You just can't. I mean, can you win 3 Game 7s against the Capitals in 3 consecutive years? Possibly, but it's going to be tough to do. I want to get to the mailbag here as we wrap up the show before I get your final thoughts. Mailbag. We're opening up the mailbag, so if you have questions, bring them in, because we're going to try to go through add some more segments to the show. Like I said, I'm trying some different encoding things this week to try to get some other audio tracks. Right now, I haven't been able to figure out how to get my computer to handle it, but I'm working on it. So those things will be coming definitely soon. Mailbag is one of them. We did get a question, but I want to hold off on answering this question. I'm going to throw it out as a teaser because it's going to be a new segment on the show where I'm going to try to get, we're not going to try to get, I'm going to put up a poll on either our website or on Twitter or Facebook and try to combine them. We'll see whatever I can come up with. Because we had a question come across after my James Harrison rant. Was it 2 weeks ago now? I think it was 2 weeks ago because this came in the week for last week's show. Someone asked me, what was the question, Matt? Who would we rather put in the Hall of Fame, Hines Ward or James Harrison? Is that what the question was?
And you had to pick one.
You had to pick one. Who would you put in the Hall of Fame, NFL, not the Steelers Hall of Fame? Overall, who would you put in the NFL? James Harrison, Hines Ward. So we're going to go ahead and make this a new segment where we go ahead and we take 3 topics. Maybe we'll let Rick bring in some of his own ideas if we're doing some of these later on down the road. But that's definitely going to be the first one. Harrison and Hines Ward. We're going to bring in our facts on why and why not they should be in. We'll talk about them on the show, and then we'll let everyone vote. So that will be something that's going to be coming. I don't know if it's going to be next week because I'm still trying to figure some of this stuff out. We'll see how the show goes whenever I rewatch it, but that's something to keep an eye out. Start to think about it. Hines Ward or James Harrison. Message us on Twitter if you have any ideas. If you have any stats, send them to me so that I can use them against Matt. Because I don't know who he's going for yet. But I'm probably going to...
And if you have any stats, don't send it to me because I don't give a crap about math. I just wing it.
Well, I like winning. Like the Pirates over the Cardinals 3 times this year. But anything else, Matt? You got anything to end the show on?
No. I'm just going to end it with that verbal diarrhea you just spewed.
Yeah, I don't have anything else either. We'll be back next week. Like I said, we're bringing in some new segments, so if you have anything, definitely give us a call. We have a voicemail set up. I'll be honest, I haven't checked it, so we did get some weird voicemails. If they're weird, we can't play them because we're going to play them on this show, actually, so people can hear them. So if you have a crappy connection that you can't understand, we can't play it on the show. But our number's 412-330-1512. I'll give it at the beginning of next show. Again, that's 412-330-1512. Call, leave us a voicemail. Follow us, Southbound Sports, on Facebook, Instagram, or S-Bound Sports on Twitter. And we'll see you next week.